everyone, and welcome to the Brighter Together podcast. My guest today is James Taylor. He is the Dean of Students at Rockwell Charter School in Eagle Mountain, Utah. Welcome, James. We're excited to have you here.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite.
Awesome. So tell everybody a little bit about your school and what your role is at that school.
So our school it was actually the first public charter school in our city in Eagle Mountain. It's it's an interesting community right now because it was rural. I'm actually from the area. I grew up in a neighboring community called Saratoga Springs, and back then it felt like you were on an old school Utah pioneer trek to get out to Eagle Mountain from my house. Um, and it was basically just all farms and ranches and farmers and things like that. And now it's turned into, we still have a lot of that in the community. That's still the basis of the community. But we now have a lot of people moving there from different parts of the state because that's where all the land is. A lot of big communities coming in. So we've had it's a changing environment. And the school was originally built by a group of families because frankly they didn't want to bus their kids an hour to 2 hours to get to school every day. Um, and
Yeah.
now there's a public high school out there. There's a bunch of middle schools going in. There's going to be a new public high school out there. So
Wow.
we fill the need, and now we're just trying to fit in where we can still be effective.
I think we talked initially, you had said you were even one of those kids that had to ride that bus for an hour
I was,
when you
yep.
were going. Yeah, that does not sound like fun at all. I lived
And it
three
actually,
blocks from our high school.
yeah, and actually, I made a silly decision. I mean, at the time, it made a lot of sense, but I didn't want to go to the local high school, and my mom taught at a neighboring high school, so I actually went to her high school. So actually, my hour long bus ride turned into an hour long car ride
With your
um,
mom,
with my
right?
mom.
Yeah.
Um, but that turned out to be a really good thing for me anyway. So, but yeah, we
Yeah.
eventually actually moved to Pleasant Grove just because of me and my siblings' commitments with sports and things like that. After school, it was just a little too
Oh,
much to come back and forth
yeah.
across the lake.
That makes sense. That definitely makes sense. So, I would like to know, like, what do you consider? I know you talked about
hmm
the history of where you are with your school right now. What do you feel is your biggest challenge in 2025? What is the biggest challenge for you right now, James?
So the biggest challenge we're coming into right now is, like I kind of already mentioned it, is finding where we fit in the educational sphere um, in the area. There, Utah is still really focused on the big public high schools, and people want to be a part of that community, which is phenomenal. I grew up in that community. Um, I still get contacted by my high school community frequently, and I still have some long-lasting relationships from that time period. Um, and so originally the school had a lot of students and was a very viable educational institution until the big public high school was opened, and we've seen a decline since. And
Mm,
now we're trying to differentiate ourselves from, are we just another school? Um, we've also run into some really high profile before my time and now in my tenure as well, just really bad publicity hits, just the school being associated with funny things or how it has a reputation, and really trying to fight through that reputation and provide the best educational experience for our students,
hmm.
um,
Yeah.
and be able to keep the focus on the students. And we're kind of in a change of how we're doing that. We're changing our to a competency grade based grading system. We're really pushing higher rigor in our classrooms. We have the three R's: rigor, relationships, and I can't remember the last one actually. But I focus on the rigor and the relationships. My job is basically relationships as dean of students.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so
Yeah.
those are the two that apply to me the most, and it's
Mhm.
been we've seen some positive change from it. We've seen a lot of parent support. We've seen a lot of kickback as well. And that's okay because growth happens as you communicate with all the interested stakeholders and all the interested parties and really try to figure out what's going to be best for these students.
Yeah. Yeah. And so with that in mind, if you had a parent that was considering coming to you, I know you've talked about the
Hmm.
rigors and all that. What other things would you say? Like, do you guys start from kindergarten and go all the way through 12th grade? Is it just high school? Where do you guys start?
We are 7 through 12 right now.
7 through 12. Okay.
Yes, and I know we're trying to build some relationships with some of the K through sixes and K through eights, charter
Yeah.
schools around us,
Mm-hmm.
and try to, bring in some of those kids because when you send your child, my children, so my one and then my fiance's three, they all go to the same charter school,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so that's, we're a charter school family. And so when you choose these, when you give the choice of education to the families, you have to provide something that you're not going to get at this neighborhood
Right.
schools.
Mm-hmm.
And so ours currently right now, it's our small classroom size.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when my first teaching position, I was a special education teacher. I still am. That's my specialty.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and my classroom, I was a self-contained classroom, and my I was next to the US history teacher, and he and I coached basketball together, so one day I could hear it just sounded like he was having a rough day, so I went and took him a Diet Coke. We bonded over, we both like to drink Diet Coke, and I walked in his classroom and I'm looking around, because my classroom had 8 kids in it, and I'm like, where did all these kids come from? And I was teasing him, I was like, dude, kick some of these kids out, send them back to class, like this is wild.
And that was his classroom.
And then,
That
yeah, he
was
looked at me,
that
goes,
was
he goes,
his
Coach, this is my classroom. He's like, I've got 48 kids in here. And I was like, wait, what?
48 kids.
He's like, yeah, I got to
Wow.
teach 48 kids US history. And he's like, and 90% of them don't even know what class we're in right now.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was one of my light bulb moments, is like, whoa,
Yeah.
wow, like
Yeah.
something's got to change.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
that was a neighborhood high school. Um, I was really close to, it's actually, my dad was a semi-celebrity in this little small town. And I went to my dad and I was like, "Hey, are all the classrooms like this?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Why do you think your mom pulled your brothers out of this school?" And I was like,
Wow.
"Oh, that makes sense."
Yeah. So
Um,
what is your ratio right now? What is your class size ratio right now? Do you know?
um, we are about 20 to 1.
Okay. Nice.
We are actually in our charter, we want to keep it under 25 to 1.
Yeah. That's great. That's
So,
really great. Yeah. That one-on-one attention is really helpful when you are dealing with that. And I can't imagine having 48 students. That's a
no,
lot.
it was
That is a
wild.
lot
I
of
actually teased him. I was like,
kids.
"Do you even know all their names?" And he's like, "Yes, I do." I was like,
Yeah. Well, that's good.
"But,
That's something I was, I'm a speech therapist, so the
mhm,
most I've had is 55 kids, students, I should say students, on my caseload in a school. I've done others as well, but in the school, and you learn them, you learn their
yeah,
quirks, you learn who they are and what they love and what they're excited about. And, you know them by name, which is, like they're kids. They want to,
yeah,
they want to be successful. They want to, some of them, and they all come, everybody's got a story, right? Everybody's coming
yes,
from a different background, and that's part of what we do as educators to teach them that, right? So,
yes."
so,
And I think one
so,
of the big
yeah.
things with our school
Hmm.
is that with that low ratio, you get to know people. Like even
Hmm.
kids I haven't had in class, because before I was an administrator, I was the special education teacher and the special education director.
Hmm.
So there was a time that when I first came to school, I didn't know you unless I had you in class because I came mid-year. But by the end of that year, I knew everybody.
Right.
And I knew them by name, and I knew them by, a lot of like what quirks they had, what they were into, and so and that was just with me going through the halls every passing period. It wasn't even me being super involved at the school yet, as I thought I was going to come, stay for a year, get another job, and move on. And lo and
That
behold,
didn't
here I
happen,
am.
did it?
That
It
didn't
didn't
happen.
happen.
Nope, still here.
Yeah, yeah. So how long ago was that? How long have you been
This
at
is my
Rockwell?
third year. Yeah,
Third
my
year.
third year. So I
Okay.
came in October of 22, and I've been here
Okay.
since.
Yeah. And this is your first year as dean of students, correct?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. So, let's shift a little bit and let's
Hmm.
talk about the shifting landscape of education.
Yeah.
AI is coming on and kids have access like they have never had access before. What has your experience as an educator and as a leader been with all of these technological changes that are happening in education, and how have you navigated that?
It's funny that you say that, because even though I'm not very old, I am one of those people that if my computer doesn't turn on, I start freaking out. Um,
Uh-huh.
I call my 11-year-old, hey, Ethan, come my computer, like, what's it doing? And he hits two buttons. He's like, Dad, it just
Yeah.
wasn't turned on. Okay, thanks, bud. Um,
Yep.
and so this is something that, like, up until recently, I've been kind of behind the eight ball on. Like, I just finished my master's, and even in my master's thesis, I didn't use any AI until the very, very end. And that was to create some graphs that I was having some troubles creating in the spreadsheets, I mean, in the document for
Mhm.
my thesis. And then that actually kind of clicked a light bulb for me because I had literally spent all night working on this. It was due the next day because I'm an awesome, on top of everything person like that. Um,
Little procrastination. I think we all have a
yeah.
little bit.
And well, it's actually, I mixed up the dates it was due. I thought it was due another week out. And then I was looking at it, I was like, oh, crud, that's tomorrow.
There
Um,
you go. But you
so
got it
I would
done, didn't
mostly,
you, right?
yeah, I did get it done. Um, it was so, but it was fun because that's when I had that aha moment, like, oh, this is why they use it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Oh, like you can pay $5 and hey, I didn't like that. Can you redo it? And because that's what I was doing. I was going, no, I don't like how that looks, and I was like,
And it
wow,
was
this is why they
redesigning it
do it.
for you as you requested it to do it.
Hmm.
That's neat. Yeah. Yeah.
And then at least in my college is very pro AI, so all I had to do is credit that to the AI.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
And so I did. And so that's actually kind of been the big push. So we're a one-to-one Chromebook school. So like we are
Oh, okay.
seeing this like in real time.
Hmm.
Um, I actually was just before the call, we were talking about how I have a foreign exchange student in my class and I mean at my home, and he's been reporting to me that like a lot of their teachers are catching the foreign exchange kids with using AI and they haven't figured out why would they think we're using AI. And unfortunately, it's pretty obvious when you get a paper or
Hmm.
of someone who has historically given you C work and all of a sudden they're giving you college level writing and you're like,
Right.
oh, that wasn't correct. Let's try that again.
Right.
Um, and so that's been one of my big pushes, like, hey, let's teach them how to incorporate it. Like, yeah, we don't want it to replace, but let's teach them how to incorporate it and how to credit it
Right.
appropriately so we don't run
Hmm.
into plagiarism, so we don't run into,
Right.
especially some of our older kids, like they're going to be going into college. And if they do that, then we're running into the whatever colleges, I've personally known people who were kicked out of their college for plagiarism.
Hmm.
So, and that was back before it was AI. So
Right.
let's teach them how to utilize these as a tool, not as a crutch, and
Hmm.
help them really incorporate this skill. Because even as a special educator, excuse me,
Hmm.
I have used it. There's
Right.
there's a lot of there is a lot of paperwork that we do on a daily basis
Yeah.
that it really helps with, or writing emails. It's writing like a controversial, not a controversial, but maybe an email that I don't know how to word this correctly without sounding like I'm being a jerk here.
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah, just being sensitive.
right.
And I
I
love
mean,
that you can change the tone. It really will change the tone for
yes.
you. You have to go in and edit it, right? But you can
Right.
tell it what tone you want and it will
Yep.
give it to you. And then you just, make it a little bit more of your own. And it's amazing. It really is
Yeah.
amazing.
And
Yeah.
in that sense, when it's a tool that you can use in accordance with the education process, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's great. Just like, I remember my mom handwriting IEPs. I really remember that,
Oh,
when she
wow.
first started. So
Wow.
like
Yeah.
how this is just the new version of being able to type these up in a word processor and print them out. It's literally the same thing.
Yeah.
We just have to learn how to use it appropriately so it's not writing your entire IEP. Here, Chat GPT, this is all the info, write it for me. That's not going to work because now it's not
No.
individualized education anymore.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Um, but when you can look at it, read it, and be like, that actually sounds really good. Let's
Hmm.
use this aspect of it for our goal, or use this aspect to convey what this data means, because it might be doing it a little bit better than I am.
Hmm.
That's where it
No, I
becomes
get it.
something we can use.
A
And that's
useful
just
tool.
with us. Yeah, but the
Right.
students need that too, because they're, as much as the world is changing for us as educators, it's changing for them. And their ability to access it and use it and manipulate it. And I don't mean that like negatively, but just how to use it
Yeah. No, I
in
get it.
accordance in
Yeah.
their life. It's going to be a part of it. So
It's
like,
not
let's
going
make sure we're
away.
teaching them. No, we're not putting the genie back in the bottle here. So like, let's teach them how to do this in a way that they're still going to learn, because right now they're using it to accomplish a task. I have this 7-page research paper. I don't want to write it. Here, write it. Okay, cool. That's just a task. You didn't learn anything from that, having it do that. How are we going to take this as a tool to help you learn this information, why you have to write this, or what skills you need from writing this research paper? I
Yeah.
think that's kind of the crux that we're
That's
trying to
so good. Yeah.
balance.
And it is a balancing act. It's a balancing act for us as educators. It's a balancing act for parents to
Hmm.
know what their students are doing. And it's a balancing act for the kids. And I think there's a really great piece for them about integrity and morals and
Hmm.
empathy that they can really get from AI, which I think is
Yes.
yeah, I think it's a great thing. It's kind of a scary I was intimidated as well. I'm 57,
Hmm.
so I'm like, oh, I don't
Well,
understand all of this, but what I've seen, I really, really have been impressed with how incredibly helpful it is if you use it properly, right? So
yes.
it's
We
like
went
any
to
other tool, right?
yeah, we went to the special education law conference in Utah this year, me and my special education team. And with our starting to use AI components to our IEP writing process, we went to the one that was focused on it, and they brought a ton of case law where teachers were actually getting in trouble for completely writing their IEPs on ChatGPT or other AI focus, and I was shocked. I was like, man, like I became in special education, like so I'm a classic. I became a teacher so I could coach. I coach basketball. Um,
Mhm.
and now with my new role, I'm kind of starting to transition away from that, trying to find someone to take that spot for me, um, and take that over. But I had a decision to make. I could try to be the classic PE teacher that just is there so I can coach basketball in the winter, or I could do something more with the potential that I had.
Right.
And I chose special education because I served as a missionary for the Mormon church, after high school. And for some reason, I found that I could really help break down really complex things to young students, young kids, with their parents' permission, of course. And I was like, man, one of these kids had really severe, like to this day, one of the most severe cases of AD, unmedicated ADHD I've ever seen. He came from a really poor family, so there were no supports being offered.
Mm,
Now
mhm.
in my head, I'm like, oh, we could offer this and this and this. The school should have
Right.
been doing this, 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 and this. Um,
Yeah.
but he was just your classic, like, big school kid that just kind of fell through the cracks. Everyone's like, oh, he's just frustrating. Let's push him out that
Yeah.
way. And
Yeah. Move them on.
and
Right.
um,
Hmm.
when there was a moment where someone asked him a question, it was a really complex spiritual question, and he answered it beautifully. And I was worried. I was like, oh, he's not going to answer that very well. And afterwards, the other missionary I was with was like, hey, how'd you know that? And he goes, dude, Taylor's good teacher, man. Like he just, and I was like, wait, if I can get this kid
Right.
to understand these really hard concepts, what could I do in a school setting,
Hmm. Hmm.
where I'm teaching something that they need? Like this is something they're choosing to learn about, um, whether it's reading or writing or math. I ended up teaching math, which is ironic because I was really bad math student, but and I realized I wanted to do something more with my life than roll the balls out and go win a bunch of basketball games and hopefully win a state championship someday. And
Yeah.
while I still would love, like, I still love rolling the balls out and I love coaching my boys and I love those 4 months in the winter, like, there's so much more to life. There's so much more.
Yeah.
I can be such a bigger effect in my school as a teacher, an educator, um, and especially this population where it's hard. I watched my mom do it. When I told my mom I was doing it, she told me I was crazy. Um, my dad apparently, like when I called him and told him I was changing my major because my dad's a chiropractor, so I was actually on the pre-med track to go to
Mm-hmm.
chiropractic school.
Yeah.
Apparently, he had already figured out that I want to be a special ed teacher. Um,
Ahead of you. He knew before you. Yeah,
yeah, he
sometimes
actually.
parents are
I remember
amazing
that
that way.
phone call. I said, "Hey, I changed my major." He goes, "Is it special ed or is it history?" I was like, "How'd you
Oh,
know?"
good.
And he goes,
Yeah.
"I've known." He's like, "I've known." He's like, "I've known since you were in high school." He's like, "I never knew."
Wow.
He's like, "I never thought that you would actually go to chiropractic school."
Amazing.
But yeah,
That sounds like you had some supportive parents. That's great. That's really
yeah. And my
great.
mom is actually, she's a principal now. And so it's kind of funny that I've actually really kind of followed her footsteps, and my brothers have really followed my dad's.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I always wanted to get back to where I was going with that, is I always wanted to be more than just the guy who coaches.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I
And
don't
it sounds like you
like
have. You've done it
I'm
beautifully,
trying. I'm
successfully. Yeah.
trying.
I think you should be very proud of what you've accomplished. I think that is amazing. Well, listen, we're getting close to time. I
Yeah.
have one last question I want to ask
Hmm.
you. And thank you so much for what you've shared so far, because I see your heart, and that's really um I love that for the podcast and for your school, because obviously you are going to do amazing things there, and it's
Thank you.
evident to me. If you could miraculously solve one challenge in schools, what would you want to solve?
I think what I would like to see changed, if we could do it, is it feels like I'm going to use a trigger word. I feel like there's a pandemic of apathy in our students right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if I could wave a magic wand and just help them understand why we're teaching this, the effects it can have on your life, the lessons that you learn in school. Well, I get it. Like I was a math teacher. I get it. You don't need to know y equals mx plus b in real life. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But that problem solving that we're triggering, hey, I know something. I know how to solve this somehow. Well, there were letters in it. Hey, okay, wait, was it this? Was it that? Oh no, it was this. What goes where? Oh, that's right. They said this, and that problem solving
Mm-hmm.
is so important. Yeah, you may never have to graph another line in your life after school, but that process of learning
Mm-hmm.
rather than just trying to shove it into a computer or a
Mm.
calculator or an
Oh
AI
yeah.
system
Uh-huh.
and just get the answer. Right now, it feels like many students are more task oriented, um, completion checklist item oriented rather than what I'm supposed to learn. And that is the one thing I would change. If we could just get them back to understanding why we're doing what we're doing
Mm-hmm.
and the importance it could have on their lives, um, I think it'd go a really long way and help them understand that like so many of them are meant for so much more than what they what their current trajectories are on,
Yeah.
and just that engagement inside themselves, not just to education but to life in general,
Yeah.
um, would help them
Embrace
so
that whole
much.
process,
Yeah.
right? Embrace the process.
Yes.
Okay, well, James, thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time. I think this has been a really great conversation. Where should people go if they want to learn more about Rockwell? Where would you ask them to go?
You can always just email me, jtaylor@rockwellhigh.net, or you can go to our brand new website, rockwellcharterschool.org.
Great.
And then
Thank
we're
you
also on
so much.
Instagram and Facebook and all that. So just
Awesome.
search Rockwell Charter School and we'll pop up.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for your time once again. And it's been a great conversation, and I am excited to see where you guys go from here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.